I was really at the deep end, and I learned that that's where I really perform my best, when I have to ensure that I'm 100% sharp.
What is your approach in having a great impact in how we are able to decarbonize the shipping industry? Because I think that's a topic you care very, very much on.
And if we're going to do this fast enough, we need to move in many dimensions and directions. The why, I think, is very important. Why are we doing it? It's not just because we, need to fill a KPI, but it's because we will actually perform better. We believe.
Thank you so much for taking the time to join me for a conversation.
Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to it.
If you just go all the way back to the beginning, what do you think led you towards the maritime industry in the first place?
Well, I always knew I wanted to be an engineer. Math and science has always been my favorite subjects. And then angling it towards some practical issues was always fun. And my father is an engineer from Trondheim. My grandfather was an entrepreneur who started a factory. And then I grew up by the sea. So I've been sailing all my life, having a family boat. I've been a sea scout. So choosing marine technology came naturally, I would say.
Very interesting. So there were no pressures from them. You just got inspired by looking at them, so to say.
Yes, absolutely. I've always, I come from a family of engineer, but it's always been very close to kind of what I was interested in.
And what do you think were some of the important milestones early on, either a mentor or a specific project? Were there anything in particular that really sparked your interest going into the DNV company as well?
Well, DNV, I grew up close to Høvik, so I very often were actually laying on the quayside at Høvik, looking at the sailing boats, actually the 11 meters that DNV had, and also at all the clever people going in and out of the company. So that was one of the things that I kind of always knew about the company and thought it was a cool place to work.
Very interesting. So in all those years, you never had any idea of trying something else. You really felt home in this industry from the get-go, or did you have any aspirations to maybe try something else? Because it seems like you have decided to stay in this industry for a long time ahead as well.
Yeah, well, I think the maritime industry has so many aspects to it, and so many challenges and also potential for development. The maritime industry is a very important part of the world's infrastructure, moving goods across the globe, and combining that with being a very global business. I always loved to travel and explore new places. When I grew up, my father worked several places, like in Tanzania and Bangladesh. So we traveled a lot, and I always wanted to work in a company or in a sector that was global, and that's very much the maritime. So combining tech with the global part, as well as solving some of the big challenges that we're up against now, I thought it always been an industry that has been very intriguing to me.
Very true. So what was the original story on how you ended up at DNV? Was it just that you knew pretty early on that you wanted to be there, or was it a bit of coincidence?
I got a summer job the year before I was finished with my studies, and I actually my master thesis I wrote for our competitors, Bureau Veritas in Paris, living in Paris for 6 months. But then I came back afterwards, and I was contacted by one of the head of sections that I met during my summer job at DNV, and he said, "We have a position, and I think it's perfect for you." So then I applied, and I got it, starting as an approval engineer in the company.
Okay, I understand. So what do you think makes DNV a truly unique company? I mean, one aspect is, of course, the large history and legacy, but what else do you think makes DNV a truly unique player?
Well, first of all, you said it is an old company. It was founded in 1864, so we're soon 160 years old, and it's built on competence building and experience. We have our own rules and standards, and have improved those over centuries, which has given us a position in the maritime industry as a competent and independent partner. So, we're also having now several legs to stand on. We have our energy systems, business assurance, digital solutions, and more. We keep expanding continuously. So we have a breadth of experience to capitalize on. But I think the competence heavy is the truly unique part of the company, combined with experience.
So, I mean, you touched upon it already, but what do you think is the secret for a traditional company like DNV to stay relevant with new solutions, going into new industries? I saw a place that I think you spend 5% of yearly revenue in new developments, new technology. Do you think that is like one aspect of what makes DNV a forward-looking company, that they always want to invest in the future?
Absolutely. And as mentioned, DNV is a very competence-heavy company with lots of clever minds. So our people and our experience gained over years and years is the core of our deliveries. So we always strive to live our purpose, which is to safeguard life, property, and the environment. And as you said, the fact that we do invest 5% of our revenue every year on research and innovation, to exactly ensure that we stay relevant, that we also look forward. We have our energy transition outlook where we look forward in time to see where the world is heading, make us stay relevant and also keeping our people competent. And I think, of course, we are a foundation. So the independence makes us also, we're able to juggle the directions we want to go. So I think that's important. And it's a big passion in the company to really stay both relevant and also forward-leaning. So we have done a lot on development. We were early with digitalization, early with decarbonization, and taking being a thought leader on these major subjects for the industry.
Interesting. What do you think has been the most rewarding project you have been working on? Because you've done quite a lot in your history at DNV. Do you have any highlights so far?
Well, one highlight, and if I look at my career, I knew very early that I wanted to lead. From taking a leading role in my scouting group to being part of a student executive board at the student network, PM roles in DNV. I'm a little sister, but when being asked, I always said that I was the big sister because I wanted to take the lead. So one big important milestone would be my first leadership position. I was 32 years old. I'd never worked in a consultancy nor as a line manager before. However, I was believed in and given the trust to shape a newly established consultancy group in Singapore. And when I started a job, we were 4 people, and when I left Singapore about 2 years later, we were a large unit with many sectors or sections. And I was really at the deep end, and I learned that that's where I really perform my best, when I have to ensure that I'm 100% sharp and are really at the edge of it. So I think that was a really I was super stressed at the beginning, but then when you see that you manage to navigate through it, that gives a really large or huge feeling of being empowered and that you can tackle a lot.
Yeah. But do you also think, given that experience, that you also have to be comfortable being thrown a bit at the deep end in order to have that development as well? Because maybe a few people shy away from that because it can be a bit uncomfortable at the beginning, at least.
Absolutely, I think that's what it's always I've been triggered a little bit as you said, at the deep end, and seeing with such a big challenge. I saw that I was, of course, I made mistake as everyone, but I was able to navigate through it, and I think it was very important that I was given the trust, so that somebody believed in me, and made me also stronger believe in myself, and then at the same time, being at the deep end, you really need to be sharp. You cannot just you need to be very, very focused. So and then I have also another quite rewarding project. I was very fresh in DNV, and I was given the opportunity to work in a project of developing a technical help desk, which is now known as DATE, Direct Access to Technical Expert. And it was fairly innovative, and where we combined customer experience with and centricity with hardcore technical competence. And at the time, I had a leader with a mission, and that was to make people blossom. And he gave me big challenges and opportunity. And part of that, why this was so exciting, was that I, as a very young and fresh employee, I got an exposure and network across the DNV organization that I've really valued moving forward in my career.
Interesting. So, I mean, now we touched upon you've been deployed to Singapore, but I think you also been deployed to Finland. So I just wondered, what are the reflections of, having gone abroad, lived in another country? I think it sets you up to have an international career, knowing that you can, be in different cultures, seeing, different types of way of doing business, etc. Do you also think that's a very good idea for people who want to have an international career to also try to go abroad a bit?
Absolutely. I think for me, it's given great opportunities. Working in a different country with different cultures gives you a lot of experience and exposure and self kind of learning and self-reflections, because you cannot just apply what you normally know. You need to navigate, you need to listen, and you need to kind of sense where you're at, and in Singapore, it was in a way fairly easy, because thinking that it's Asia, it's so far away, it's different. So I wouldn't say you're very alerted to the fact that you need to be sensitive or to their surroundings. So it was almost like a little bit more of a I wouldn't say shock, but issue in Finland, because it's our neighboring country. I thought it would be fairly the same, but there's very many more like subtle differences that you needed to pay attention to, and so that was also a very good experience. I would definitely recommend being able to do international assignments. I think it's a huge development potential. Both times I've had my family with me. First time with very young, just one small child, and then later with two children. And also for the whole family, it's an experience. So my children are now asking, when are we going out again? So.
Very funny. So just since you've been in Finland, and Finland a lot of the times get ranked as the happiest country in the world. Did you get a feeling on what's the secret sauce in Finland?
Well, I think they have this kind of hardship. They're not, they just keep moving. They're extremely trustworthy, and they just keep moving and building one stone after the other, and I think that's part of it. They're content with being really dedicated and taking it one step at a time, not expecting everyone to have bells and whistles for you all the time. So I think that's maybe part of it.
I know one big theme that you are tackling a lot is, of course, the decarbonization piece, which, of course, the whole industry is tackling. So what is your approach in having a great impact in how we are able to decarbonize the shipping industry? Because I think that's a topic you care very, very much on.
Absolutely. I think it's extremely important. We know now with the IPCC report that came out last week, the world needs to take action, and the sector, the shipping sector, needs to take their part of it. And I think in a way a little bit fortunate for Norway and the Nordic region. We're quite forward-leaning. There are also very many good governmental fundings and political support to do this. So it enables us in a quite a good way. And I think as DNV, our role here is again, we have our energy transition outlook, our maritime forecast, to kind of draft a little bit of the picture for the industry of where we're heading and how they can navigate given that. And then also, of course, supply safety to the new rules and technologies and fuels that are out there, and to really be forward-leaning and assisting and enabling the industry to do this as fast as possible.
It's also fair to say that from your position, you don't want to also just pick the one winner in technology or fuel, but you rather want to help all the different solutions get the right regulations and help them, in terms of safety issues, etc. So it's not about, picking the one thing that could work, but also making sure that all the different types of solutions get the guidelines to sort of try and see if it works out, because it's hard to know exactly what the solution will be, I guess.
Absolutely. And I think, again, if we're going to do this fast enough, we need to move in many dimensions and directions. And it's very big differences, with the deep sea trade and the local ferries. And so there's so much variations here, and we need to look at all the variables. We also know that there will be, a little bit of energy is a little bit scarce. We need to ensure that we divide the energy in the world the right way in order for it to be the most energy efficient and also environmentally friendly. So it's important here that we have a lot of options to reach from. But of course, for the shipping companies, they also need to make some bets, and that's also why I believe it's important that the whole value chain is part of some of these projects, because picking a fuel is one thing, but somebody needs to develop the technology, somebody needs to build the infrastructure, and somebody needs to ensure the supply, and somebody needs to pay for it. So I think everybody needs to pitch in to ensure that this actually goes. So I think the collaboration. My boss Knut Ørbekk Nielsen keeps saying that collaboration is the fuel of the future, and I think that's a very good statement. Really important.
So true. Do you trust the market to figure this out? Or do you think that it also maybe will come with politics and a carbon tax to really get things going? Or do you think companies will try to solve this by themselves? Or is it hard to only think the market will solve everything?
Well, the maritime industry is compliance driven. So, we need to be forward leaning, to push the regulations and develop technology and new solutions. And I think also to make it a level playing field, not so that somebody do big investments so I think there's a combination, but it needs to be driven also by regulations, financial incentives, in order for the industry to move. But with those things in place, the industry is very innovative and very very good. The technology challenge, I think, is that will be solved, and we see it already. There's very many possibilities. The big engine manufacturers are making new engines. There's lots of smaller companies having interesting solutions. So it needs to go a little bit like this, but definitely with the right regulations to give a level playing field, I think is important.
But just to end the decarbonization piece, how optimistic are you that we are going to get the goals that we are wanting to get?
Well, I have to be optimistic, and also being because it's our world. But also in this region, we pilot a lot. When we see a lot of initiatives, and now it's just about getting that scaled. Some scalabilities to some of these projects and figuring out kind of the missing pieces. So I will say I am optimistic. I see a very forward-leaning industry, and the topic is so high on the agenda. So I believe we will move forward.
I hope so too. So let's switch gear to leadership, because I know you also care a lot about that. So if you look at your own leadership principles, what are those based on? And also, what's the hardest principle to live out in practice?
I believe leading with passion and enthusiasm, really leading from the heart. We're all people. We need to be seen. We need to develop, to thrive and to blossom. And the greatest deliveries are not the ones done by a single person, but through the power of a well-driven team. And here I believe that diversified teams are very important. And for a well-driven team, it needs to be a team that has trust as its foundation, who can challenge each other with new perspectives, new ways of thinking, but of course also with a clear direction towards a common goal. And that then a team can really lift mountains and have fun doing it, which is also important. And then talking about what principle is the hardest. I think making sure that this passion and enthusiasm is kind of drizzled through the organization. I currently lead a region covering about 300 people in 14 different countries. So we need to ensure that we all pull in the same direction. So to have kind of I'm coming out with a message, and to have that really been understood in the same way throughout the organization in order for all of us to move in the same direction is not always easy.
Very interesting. Just if we take those points you mentioned there, do you think that those principles and ways of leading are always in development, or do you feel like now you have the structure that you like to work from, or do you think it's a constantly evolution that you learn new things and also try to implement that?
Absolutely. I don't believe in anything being static, and I keep telling people that it's changing, and that's where the magic happens. By us really, learning something new, adopting that, moving us forward, continuously striving to be a better version of ourselves or the team or the organization. So it's not static. But what I do believe is also the authenticity of leadership, to being an authentic leader. So I'm a leader version of me, and I don't want anyone to copy me. Be your own best version. And through that also, pulling in some personal parts into my leadership, and I, as a person, hopefully develop through my lifetime and career, and also apply that to my leadership.
And also just on diversity, because many companies, maybe especially in the maritime industry, says that it's hard for them to get the right diversity on board. And of course, it can be a lot more than just gender, of course, but that is maybe the most easy one. But how is your view on the general, diversity discussions going around? Do you think it's a hard thing to get right, or do you think it's easy if it's executed the right way?
Both, I would say. I think the foundation here must be, why do we need diverse teams? It's because we actually know that they will perform better. They will tackle a challenge in a more complex way, and they will complement each other in order to ensure that it's not just an echo chamber of a single idea, but that it's actually more things are enlightened here. So that's kind of the foundation, why we need it. It's because we will perform better. And then to succeed with diversity, we need to kind of educate the decision makers, the leaders, and those who are recruiting or putting teams together. And we need to challenge our unconscious bias, to be aware of our potential blind spots. And we need good role models. We worked very dedicated with this in my unit, which is a very male-dominated part of the organization. And we see great progress when we actually kind of educate and put this on the agenda. So it needs to be continuously discussed, and the why, I think, is very important. Why are we doing it? It's not just because we, need to fill a KPI, but it's because we will actually perform better, we believe. And I think it's of course important to, in the maritime, it's very often referred to as gender, which is of course very important. It's a huge part of the workforce that is not participating in the maritime industry due to with the few females. But I think also different mindsets, not always having everybody with the same engineering background, maybe somebody having a different, maybe sales background, commercial mindset, maybe with some social economics. So different mindsets will also make a team perform better, I would say.
Very good point. So a lot of people tuning into this podcast are young professionals. How do you think they should design their career to try to have an impactful career like you have managed to have?
Grab the opportunities that are there. Really do that. I've raised my hand, I think, and sometimes I thought, oh, why did I do that? Well, I don't have, time, or I don't, have the capabilities. So grab the opportunities, be proactive. Do not always wait for somebody to kind of pick you. Be determined and be clear on what you want and why you want it. But you should also be ready to work hard and put in the efforts required, because that's a lot of times it's also just to have the stamina to be to do some of the hard work as well. But I think grabbing opportunities, I think that's what really has been giving me lots of interesting opportunities.
And maybe that also plays into, not be so static and have like a static plan, because, one part is to grab opportunities is that maybe you don't know when they will come. I mean, timing is hard. So, I mean, maybe that's also an important factor then, to also try to also be a bit serendipitous and grab opportunities, and don't always wait for the perfect timeline, because it may never arise.
Absolutely. And the perfect timeline is never there. And I've, I thought, if I got that job, then it will work. And that, and to be honest, also, even if I'm sitting with quite a large responsibility and leadership position now, there's been many jobs I didn't get, and I've been so disappointed. I've been like, oh, that was the perfect job. Even actually, I applied for a job in DNV before I got the one when I entered in DNV, and I thought it was the perfect job, and I didn't get it, and I was crushed. So don't, again, I think everything has its way to work out. If that opportunity shuts down, a new one comes, and I'm completely agreeing with you that do not have it as a static plan, because you will then be either disappointed or so you need to really go with the flow and just see opportunities out there.
Definitely. So if someone considering maybe trying to join DNV, what do you think is the the best pitch of why they should really consider joining your company? Because I think you're a great ambassador. I think maybe you've been there for nearly 20 years. Maybe I'm wrong there, but around, or?
Just 20 years. I just passed 20 years in January, so a long time. I didn't think I was going to stay, but really with all the opportunities. So I think that's kind of maybe what made me stay. There's so many opportunities. I've been able to travel all over the globe, shorter stays, longer stays. But also working with so many competent people, I feel honored, to be honest. There are always somebody who can deep dive into any topic, and they're so eager to help you. If you come with a challenge and go down to the technical unit, and there's always somebody that would like to help you and to see you succeed. So I think being part of that network, which is a global network, but yet at the same time you feel that you're among people who want you to succeed.
And it's probably a fantastic starting point as well, just because of the reasons you say, right? So if you want to get exposure, maybe you're not sure exactly what you want to do, maybe this is the perfect starting place because all the exposure you can get in so many different fields.
Absolutely. So I think that just, get in and then start to navigate and talk to people, and again, grab opportunities. So that's very important.
Perfect. So just to the last segue, we have some rapid fire questions. If you are ready for them, can we dive into them?
Absolutely.
So the first one is, why do you think Nor-Shipping is an important arena for DNV to be on, and also other players in the shipping and maritime industry?
Well, it's so many stakeholders gathered, both on the technical side and decision makers, and we like to see ourselves as a competence organization gathering a lot of the community. So I think having a lot of people here in Oslo is great, and it's great for network. It's great for displaying of new technology. So I think it's a very important arena, and I think I'll be very busy in that week in June, and looking really much forward to it, and also to meet new customers and broaden our network. So it will be great.
Perfect. What's your favorite activity to do outside of work?
Well, I mentioned I have been sailing a lot, but that was maybe when I was younger. But I think I must say, to be with my family and friends, I do love to travel to all parts of the world. To more exotic, the better. And I do very much enjoy the mountains. We are in the process of building our own cabin at the Blefjell, and I'm so looking forward to spend time there with family and friends in the years to come.
Do you have any highlights from exotic countries you visited?
Oh, yes. I've been in a baptism in the countryside in Philippines, for example. That was really, really cool. I've been in Tanzania and in Bangladesh. So I think, and when we lived in Singapore, we had our young daughter. She was just a few years old, and we just picked her up and took her along with us. Took a long weekend to Tokyo or into the bush in Malaysia. So many adventures, and hopefully many more to come.
So cool. Do you have a book you could recommend to anyone listening?
I do. Well, I always loved John Irving, and I think The World According to Garp is my favorite. It's old, but there's so many layers of that I really find. I really love that book.
Perfect. Which problems would you like to see more startups try to solve?
Well, I think that easy solutions of use of data and digitalization. The world is becoming so techish right now, and we all need to use all those solutions. So have easy, user-friendly solutions, I think, is important, and will have a big impact.
Perfect. And just the last one, what's the best way to live a meaningful life?
Well, I believe it is to have fun, and of course to have work that is meaningful and exciting and positive. It needs to be positive, and of course to have loved ones around you that you can laugh and share with. So all in all, to have balance.
That's the perfect ending. Tuva, thank you so much for joining. It was a privilege having you on.
Thank you for being here. It was great.